Over the weekend on December 7th, right? Well, let's backtrack just a little bit. It was announced it was confirmed last week. It was confirmed last week that Penta El Zero Miedo, Pentagon Jr., whatever, he's officially done with AEW. His contract is up. He is now free to do whatever he wants. He is now like free as a bird, and he was removed off the AEW roster page. So his contract is officially done, right? That's the first thing that we have to start off with. I think I'm going to change the title. The Rey Fenix. We'll do the title live. The Rey Fenix situation is crazy. There we go. Demetrius, welcome to the chat. You're arriving just on time. I don't know if I have any answer. I don't think I have any real answers for you, but you know, we'll have a good time in the process. So basically, everything is done with Penta and AEW. That's all wrapped up with a nice little bow on top, and we're good to go. And then, of course, the attention all turned to Rey Fenix, who, as you know, his contract was supposed to be done at the same time as Penta's, but he was tacked on extra time on his contract because of all the time he took off for injuries. So he's still technically under contract. Well, not just technically, he is still under contract, right? And then, so all this discussion came up online again with Rey Fenix, with, how AEW should release Rey Fenix and all the arguments for and against, why you'd be against that. But, all this stuff popping up, and, everything was going smoothly. And then on Saturday, December 7th, he tweeted out, on response to another tweet, he said, "I will have my chance to speak the truth." Oh, okay. So we're going to start doing the vague tweeting. We're going to start being very vague. We're going to start letting, things, we're going to start establishing that, maybe things that there's some disfranchised feelings. Maybe we're a little upset. Maybe we're not exactly happy with how the way things go down, right? Didn't quite get into it. It's like, boo. I will speak my truth. And on the same day, he tweets out, "No one stays in a place where they received inhumane treatment." Raised a lot of eyebrows. Inhumane. I'm watching this tweet here, and I'm thinking to myself, inhumane. That's pretty big. Like, there better be some receipts for this. Inhumane. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like unfair, unjust. I was treated like shit. No, inhumane. That's a loaded word. Inhumane. Whoa. All right. I guess he was pressed a little bit by people because he responded this to someone saying, unfortunately, and he posted this at midnight on December 9th, midnight. So, we're all going to bed. We're all ready for a good night's sleep. And then Rey Fenix, he says, "Unfortunately, due to contractual issues, I cannot speak now, but I will have my time." Like all wrestlers do. And then most don't. But he's very mad. He's not in a good spot. He was treated inhumanely, but he cannot speak on it because due to contractual issues, he tells us on December 9th at midnight, he tells us, "I cannot speak now, but I will have my time." All right. Well, this morning, December 9, exactly 8 hours later, from the moment he tweeted where due to contractual obligations, he cannot speak on it, but he will have his time. Well, I guess his time arrived 8 hours later, and that the contractual obligations were, I don't know, because he said, he tweets, I needed a doctor and you ignored me for months. 8 hours later, I guess the contractual obligations are all put together. It's all nice and tidy. What is going on? So that, of course, restoked the flames, right? Got everyone upset. Like an hour or so before the Tony Khan, not just Tony Khan, but the AEW thingy, where they did the thing in Texas, the event, the all-in event. And so I'm just sitting there completely gobsmacked. I'm like, what the hell is going on, right? So I needed a doctor and you ignored me for months. So he is clearly emphasizing the fact that AEW has mistreated him. This is what he's trying to say. He was treated inhumanely and was ignored because he required medical treatment and was ignored. I legitimately think, okay, that once again, I have the most measured and best take in regards to an internet wrestling controversy. It's not just internet, but it's taking place on the internet is what I'm trying to say. I do believe that I have the most measured take here. Walk with me, if you will. Wrestling companies in general, right? They have a history of prioritizing themselves over their wrestlers, right? So when a professional wrestling company is accused of doing a bad thing, it is generally difficult to not. It's generally difficult to trust. When they do the bad thing, it's generally difficult to believe the opposite or to not assume that the promotion did a bad thing, because there is long documented history of multiple professional wrestling organizations doing exactly that. Flip side, professional wrestlers are also professional liars. They have a tendency to extend the truth a little bit. If it suits their needs, if it benefits their own agendas, which just makes things all the more muddled, right? Because you've got promotions which are untrustworthy, wrestlers who are untrustworthy. Put all of that together and oh boy, especially when it's wrestlers that have a little past. I have a little past to go along with it. Anyway, I'm just saying. I want to make sure that we're clear here. There are no heroes in this story. I think there are no heroes. And there's no need to take sides here either. And that's one of the most important lessons I need everyone to glean here. Okay? You can have logical takes, but there is no reason to take sides here. It's like I say multiple times, especially when it comes to, particularly when it comes to promotions, to corporations in this case. Never stick up for them. Never stick up for a company, because they will always disappoint you. And they will never do the same to you. A corporation will never stick up for you, right? And wrestlers, you want to stick up for wrestlers, do at your own risk. You can have very blanket statements when it comes to, workers' rights and so on. And that is 100% fair. Ask Adam Page. I'm kidding, but it is. And I think it is very natural to side with with I think it's very natural to side with pro wrestlers in terms of contract disputes. One thing I would like everyone to keep in mind as well is that when pro wrestlers sign these types of contracts, whether it's with AEW or WWE, these big contracts, they understand what they're getting themselves into. If they don't, that's on them. But normally they should. They should have someone read over the contract, not just take the promotion's word for it. And they should read over the contract and say, "Yep, okay, this makes a lot of sense. I'm good with this," right? That's what you think that's what you think they'd be doing. But in reality, regardless, not even in reality, regardless, they know what they're getting themselves into. Just like a pro athlete or an actor who signs with a studio for, a certain amount of movies or so, they understand what they're getting themselves into. So it's also important to understand that this is very different from you having a 9-to-5 or, having a day job, no matter how many hours it is, it's very different from you and I who have, regular jobs, and you see a lot of injustice in this. Whereas these contracts are signed by willing parties who understand what they're getting into. So if Rey Fenix thought that he could just one day call up Tony Khan and say, "Hey, I'm done. I want out of my contract." Well, that's not exactly how it works, and I don't want to get into the weeds because there's a lot of stuff that we don't understand or that we just don't know. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know about what led us to this situation where Tony Khan just decides to no longer use the Lucha Brothers, right? There's a lot of stuff that we don't know. We're getting everything pretty much from one side, which is also something you must always be super wary about. And that's not just in pro wrestling. That's like in general. And yes, just because a contract exists between two parties doesn't mean it's moral. I agree. Nonetheless, the principles of the contract were both agreed upon because two people sat down, read it, and decided to sign it. Say, yes, we both agree. We explicitly agree on everything that's in here. Now, on the morality side of the contract, this was also where it gets tricky, because we know that pro wrestling contracts, as opposed to in most sports organizations that have the benefit of a players union, a lot of the contracts in pro wrestling, these major contracts, are weighed very much in favor of the promotions. So that's always an issue. That's always a problem, where you get into these contracts, you start up, you sign the contract, and maybe you're giving up a lot of liberties. Maybe you're giving up a lot of, maybe you're conceding on a lot of points just so that you can get that big contract that'll make you some big money, right? And I understand that. These have never really been challenged in court until, maybe the Kevin Kelly thing, maybe not, and most importantly, there are no players unions. Like, there's no wrestler unions. There's no wrestler union in pro wrestling. And there probably never will be, because the wrestlers have to want it. And I don't think the wrestlers do. And even if the wrestlers do want it, the wrestlers who have the most pull are those who already benefit from being at the top of the food chain and not being weighed down by any unions and whatnot. They probably just want to leave things as they are. And they would probably, use whatever sway they have to push back and make sure that a union never comes together. That's a whole other discussion. This is what I mean when I say, I don't think you have to take sides. Because, I understand the reasoning for AEW to do this, right? Rey Fenix is a talent that was featured on national television in the United States thanks to AEW. And probably WWE wouldn't have the same level of interest for them, for the Lucha Brothers, if it hadn't been for AEW. AEW, WWE are in a talent war. There is a war out there for the prime natural resource for wrestling promotions, which is pro wrestlers. So they are. So right now, what is AEW's choice? Do they let a ready-made talent go? You can absolutely make the argument that it doesn't matter. In the case of the Lucha Bros, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and I have a tendency to agree with that. Again, the point here, what I'm trying to start off with here is at least trying to understand AEW's reasoning here. You know, the last guy AEW left before their contract ran out, ran right back to the WWE and was soon thereafter featured on television when that person said, "I do not want to be featured on television, don't worry." So AEW has been, on top of the fact that they're in a talent war right now, they've already been burned. They've already been burned. What kind of message does that send to the locker room then? Go on social media, complain, and eventually I'll let you out of your contract. That's not a good message. That's not a good message that you're sending to your locker room, right? So AEW has reasons, business related, for keeping talent under contract, which, you know, from their perspective is valid. But I want to echo what Lucha Blog wrote, what Cubs fan wrote on Lucha Blog regarding this. He said that well, I want to resonate them, so I'll use it I'll say it in my own words. Like, these reasons don't resonate with me. You know, like the business reasons for me as a fan, for someone who follows this, like, I understand them, but it doesn't really bother me, right? I have no attachment necessarily to AEW as an entity, other than what they're able to provide me on TV on a weekly basis that I can then analyze and talk about and review and enjoy, hopefully at the same time. Now, enjoying is always very good, but other than that, their business considerations has no impact on me. I don't work for them. You know, I don't get a paycheck. I don't have stock options or whatever the fuck. Like, I know they don't have stock. You know what I'm talking about. It's just an example. I don't have a horse in this race. If Rey Fenix, why did my voice do that? If Rey Fenix was treated unfairly in AEW, he absolutely 100% deserves to move forward. If he indeed was treated inhumanely, as he says, he's absolutely entitled to just like ask for the rope to be cut. Can I just please move on? Maybe get a little compensation in the meantime, and then move on. I think he should do that, even though Tony Khan is still paying his contract, even though he's still paying him out. You know, I think most fans would prefer that Rey Fenix be out there doing things than, you know, being benched, sitting at home. But like, the thing that's important to keep in mind here is that we're only hearing things from one side. And this is so crucial in this circumstance. It is so important that we understand that all of this is coming from one side, and that side is the aggrieved party who wants to generate sympathy for their cause, plus also wants to generate some heat on the company so that the company can either suffer in the public relations department or just or just cut ties because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And if I'm AEW, quite honestly, the year 2024 right now has already been such a shitty year for PR. It's again been, just like from 2023 to this year, it's just been, slaps to the face all the time. I'd be like, okay, let's just suck this one in. It'll last a couple of days and we'll move on. That's fine. It's like, doesn't really matter. That's what I'd do if I were them. I mean, they went through the entire CM Punk saga. Okay, let's just put this in perspective. They went through CM Punk, vague tweeting, but vague posting on his Instagram while he was still under their employ, and being Phil, and talking to the sheets, and finally like fighting another guy backstage, and then getting himself fired because he lunged at the president. This all came together, and they weathered that storm. I think they can handle Rey Fenix, who wants to be out a couple of months before the end of his contract. I think that, I think that's a sound strategy on their part. Not saying it's right. I'm saying it's a sound strategy. And you see, here's another thing that's interesting to think about, is that it's Rey Fenix right now who's on the internet and doing this. Meanwhile, Penta he hasn't said a word. Penta, if I remember correctly, and you can feel free to correct me, chat. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last. The last time he spoke on this issue, right? He was saying, didn't he say something to the effect that, my future is my future, but my present is AEW, something like that. He was handling it just like putting it in a little box and like, that's all I'm going to say. Like a pro, just hanging on to it and handling it well, while Phoenix is out there airing the dirty laundry, right? He's just out there airing the dirty laundry. And you know who doesn't like that? You know who doesn't like wrestlers who go online to just air out dirty laundry? You know who doesn't like that? WWE. They don't like that. They don't like people coming in with that kind of stuff, or, and are the deals done yet? There haven't been any announcements. There shouldn't be any deals done yet because technically Phoenix is still under contract. So he cannot be signing deals right now. So, I'd tread carefully if I were him. I'd tread carefully if I were him. There's a lot of rumors going around that, not rumors. There's a school of thought, how about that, who believes that Conan is in Phoenix's ear and is whispering in his ear, right? But this is pure speculation. This is just like, but a lot of people think this is a little bit of Conan's doing, going to, moving forward with this. Moving forward with this this idea that Conan doesn't like Tony Khan, and said just a couple of months ago, it's going to bite back at you. What was he saying exactly? So it's going to bite back. I'm going to get you. I'm coming to get you, kind of thing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, in Phoenix's ear and saying, you should put this out on the internet. You should, if he doesn't want to let you go, make life hard for him. And quite frankly, it's a very lucha thing to do. It's you sort of go out and call some people out, torch a couple of bridges on the way. But it does seem, or a lot of people do feel, like Conan is suggesting moves to Phoenix. And if so, then Phoenix is ultimately just a little pawn in this game that Conan has to get back at TK for what? For not giving him a job? But this again, like, it's pure speculation, right? And there's a lot of things we can speculate on, such as what are the reasons? What is the reason, or are the reason? What is the reason TK just decided to stop booking? Just decided to stop booking the Lucha Bros, right? Because Fightful Select today had a report. Let me just pull it up here. Again, it's behind the paywall, so I don't want to really necessarily pull things up. Yeah, it's probably because of how the AAA relationship ended, right? But hey, Conan's going to Conan. Like they were all ready to take Tony Khan's money. They being Conan, Eric Bischoff, and etc. And then when Tony was like, "Nah, I'm not going to give you any money," then suddenly, right? Anyway, Fightful has spoken to numerous sources in AEW who were surprised by Fenix's tweets, even though the two sides are on the outs. One admitted there have long been communication issues, but hadn't heard anything that would be considered as inhumane and hadn't spoken to Fenix about it. They had heard that Fenix took issue with a doctor who hadn't cleared him at one point, though context on that wasn't exactly complete. Another AEW source who claimed to be familiar with the matter said that the claims were untrue and that the word of AEW not being upset by the fake news was someone trying to babyface themselves in the situation. This is referring to some tweet from a rando Twitter reporter. Y'all know what I think about Twitter reporters, right? I don't even remember who it is. As AEW had been upset about the word that Lucha Bros had talks with WWE with plenty of time remaining on their deals. It's a bit of a confusing statement here, but what I believe Sean is saying here is that the reported reason for AEW shutting the Lucha Bros off of TV, that the reported issue being that they had already been in talks with WWE while still under their contract. The AEW source said that was fake news. That's not the reason they were pulled off. Later in the report, this is interesting. Later in the report, Fightful says Penta and Fenix were both factored significantly into creative plans throughout the year. They, along with Pac, were originally planned to win the AEW Trios Championships at All In before the aforementioned rumored talks with WWE took place. While Fenix was injured, Pac and Penta were also at one time planned for a deep run in the AEW World Tag Team Tournament after Sting retired. The word in the report says expired, but I assure you, Sting is still alive. He was on television. He was on stream today. He was live. He's still breathing. He's fine. So the point I'm making here is that we're only getting one side. The other side obviously has conflicting information because this is the type of situation where you will have two sides. But the most important thing is that you do not have to pick a side. You don't have to choose a side. It can be nuanced. It can be absolutely nuanced. And I think my overall dislike at the idea that of Rey Fenix being put away in told to stay at home until his contract runs up is shitty, and I would much prefer him just being out there doing what he likes, doing what he's great at, doing what he loves, as opposed to just being instead of what they're doing right now. And I think that's important that we keep that in mind, because the business reasons, while we can analyze them, while we can scratch our chins and say, yes, this makes a lot of sense, which they do, they shouldn't matter to us as fans. As fans, they shouldn't matter to us. We should be watching pro wrestlers pro wrestle. That's what we should be doing right now. So this story is obviously not done. There's probably more developments to come. If Rey Fenix is smart at this point, or at least, let me say that again. Hopefully, someone has got to Rey Fenix, whether it's his brother or anyone else, and told him, yo, put the phone down, and stop and go work out, find a hobby, start up a Zen garden, get a 1,000-piece puzzle. Just find something to do, but stay off the phone. Don't add any fuel to this, because there is a fair chance that this could harm them in the long run with WWE. And imagine if they burn a bridge with AEW. They burn a bridge with AEW, and then they inadvertently burn their bridge with WWE, and then they really, like, you'd think they'd have a burnt bridge with AAA, but they don't, which is weird, but I think it's just a question of the enemy's my friend kind of thing. Imagine if this situation here with Phoenix and whatnot coming in with all this heavy-handed dirty laundry, and WWE sort of gets cold feet, because this kind of stuff, WWE really doesn't like it. So when Rey Fenix says, oh, I'm going to speak my truth one day. No, you won't. Not unless you do it in some sort of time zone, in some temporal area where you are no longer employed by AEW and not yet employed by WWE, and WWE has given you the okay to give interviews and whatnot. You're not speaking your truth, and that will never happen. And most wrestlers who do say that eventually don't. They never end up talking their truth. They just end up disappearing. Just end up going, whoop, the issue is never brought up. Because if Phoenix is underemployed with WWE, they are not going to let him, go to any interviews where this stuff will be covered, unless they let him pull a CM Punk, right? But then again, I'd be surprised. Not everyone gets that privilege to go out there on Ariel Helwani and shoot from the hip. Can Rey Fenix shoot from the hip? But there you go. So that's the Rey Fenix situation. It is crazy. Those are my thoughts on it. But, the best thing you as a fan can really do is just don't take sides. Don't take sides for all the reasons I just went over over the last, 25 minutes, 30 minutes? God almighty. But for real, no reason to take sides. Just let this thing play out and hope that Rey Fenix can get into a wrestling ring as soon as possible so that you can watch him wrestle again. That's all.